Just 2 minutes, we'll start. Let me share my screen. Okay, I hope you are able to see my screen. You can give me a hint that you are able to see my screen, right? Also, you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, no problem. So we'll just start in a minute. Okay, guys, so welcome to everyone for this session, and today I have kept this session to discuss about some important facts about portal security, because portals and power portals are one of the most important part of Power Apps, right? And the security is another big topic in every apps, right? Because we are managing customer data, we have to have some security metrics or security concept so that we can secure our data from unauthenticated users or unauthorized users, right? That's why in this session, we will discuss what are the security measures we have in Power Portal and how those are configured, right? Because Power Portal is intended for public users, right? It's not about accessing internal employees or users. Rather, it is a public facing website or public facing web portal where we impose or expose our organizational data, and we are not, we don't want to expose our data to unauthorized or unauthenticated users, right? So that's why we have to understand what are the security measures available in Power Portal, so that whenever you work in any project, you can understand the security metrics or security measures better in Power Portal, right? So to tell you about myself, you already know about me. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and also a MVP, and currently giving talks and live sessions and creating blogs and videos for my community, for our community. So let's get started. So first, in the portal security, we have to understand that what are the elements or components that are part of the security matrix in Power Portal. The first thing is customer record, right? In Power Portal, we store customer records in only one entity or table, that is called as contact, right? Now you can tell me why the customers are not stored in user entity or user table. Mind it, user table is responsible in Dynamics 365 or Power Platform for licensing things. But Power Portal does not require a user license, right? It is public facing website. That's why contact entity is used to store portal customers. Now what about accounts? So these contacts might have associated with some companies or some accounts, right? So this both is used in Microsoft Dataverse or Power Platform. Contacts and accounts. Contact stores individual customers. Account stores company or business information or business B2B relationship. If you are dealing with an organization, then you can store the information in account. If you are dealing with a individual record, we store the information in contact table, but the portal users are stored in contacts as a customer. Now, how if the contact record is representing a customer record for Power Portal, how these roles and how the security matrix comes into picture? The second concept is web role, right? Like in Microsoft Dataverse, we define security roles. In Power Platform, we design web roles. This web role will decide that what would be the role of a specific portal user. Okay. Now, if it is if it is web role that defines the security matrix of portals, then how many web roles you can create? You can create multiple user roles, web roles. One is authenticated users, next system administrators, right? System customizers, many web roles you can create on your own, right? It depends on business scenario that what type of role you want to create. Now, just creating web role is not sufficient. First, you have to create customer. Once the customer is created in contact record as a part of registration, portal registration or portal login, you have to assign a web role, right? And this web role should be or must be associated with some entity permission or table permission, right? Now, table permission means you have to configure the tables and the privileges that someone can access or do some action on a table. For example, you want to have a web role called as receptionist, and that receptionist is a portal user stored in contact table, and the portal user should have access to student entity or student table. The receptionist can only create uh, student records. That means you have to create some table permission, and you have to select the table student, and you provide the read permission, write permission, like that. So entity permission is used to define the proper level of privileges and access levels to specific entities. Now, this entity permission is associated with web roles, and this web roles is associated with contact. So these three things is associated with each other. That defines a complete authentication or portal security. Next, web page access control. Instead, in addition to this entity permission or table permission, you can define some controls or rules for different users for accessing web pages. Okay, portal means it's a web application, right? And web application means it contains multiple web pages. You don't want some users to access some web pages of your web portal. Then also you can configure some web page access controls. Next, website access control. Web page and website is different. Web page means we are restricting users or customers or portal users accessing a page, web page from the website. But website access control means we are restricting a user for navigating to the complete website. So nothing can be accessible by the user from this website, right? Now, so this is the portal security that are part of our Power Portals. Now, what other facts are available, we will understand. First, in the web role, we have to understand some information like static content. What is static content in Power Portal? Static content is something that is static in nature. That means the content never changes, right? Like, let's say your address of your company, right? It never changes. Normally, it's very rarely changes. So you can make that content is static, and you don't want to, assign some security role to the users or portal users. You can make it public. So there are static content concept available, which does not require a web role, right? You can create static content as a private content also, and public content also. Now, how to make a static content as a public content? If you do not assign any security role, anything that are part of your web page that is accessible by anonymous users, means anyone can read your static content. If you want to secure or privatize your content, you need to have a security role or web role in Power Portal. Like member only. Web roles is used for member only content. let's say you have implemented a student entity, student management application, and your students are trying to log in using portal to access their timesheet information. You just want to display the timesheets that is filled by the student who is logged in. You don't want to display other students information on that user. So like that, web role defines member only content. You can only display contents which are specific to that member who logged in. Like that, we have portal invitations. Portal invitations is a concept by which you can send an invitation to your customers so that they can log in or they can sign up in your portal and they will get the web roles as you have configured, right? So portal sign up and portal registration can be done through Power Portal Power Portal invitations, right? Next is authenticated user role. Authenticated user role means what is authentication and authorization. I have already spoken you this difference. What is authentication? What is authorization in my last session? What is authentication? Authentication means who you are. What is your name? What is your email? What is your address, etc. Authorization means what you can do with our data. Whether you can read data, whether you can create data, right? So authenticated users means you have a successful login information. You have an email, you have an mobile number, whatever that is personal informations. So authenticated means we understand that who you are. An anonymous user role means a person who has no web role and anonymously logged in the anonymously browsing our portal. So he is not a logged in user or authenticated users. So you have to understand what should be the content which is for anonymous users, that means public users without a security role or a web role, and you have to also understand what content should be authenticated or member only content, right? And we have to understand what are the web page contents we can configure for our Power Portal web pages so that only authorized users can view that content, and what content can only be accessible by unauthorized users, I mean public users, right? So these are the concepts that are part of security concept in Power Portal. Next, we will go to entity permission in details, right? As I have told you, entity permission, which is called as table permission in modern terminology. Table permission is something that you define some access to some privileges on some entities, right? As I have told you, if you want to create a receptionist web role and you want to assign a receptionist student permission, student table permission, read permission or write permission, you can define entity permission. I will show you in demo, right? Now in that entity permission, we have a concept called a scope. The scope is very important, right? So scope is something in entity permission which defines either global, contact, account, parent, and self scope. Now global means you can access on that the entity permission which is defined as scope global means you can access, or the web role which is associated with this entity permission can access all records of that entity. For example, if you have created a entity permission for student entity and you have chosen as scope global, that means the person can read all student records, right? That's why it is global. If you have chosen contact as a scope for student entity permission, that means the person or the portal user can read all the student records which are associated with this current user or current contact. You understand, this portal user is nothing but a contact entity record. So any student record that is created by this contact or the portal user is the scope. He can read only the student records which are created by himself, right, or created by other portal users. Next, account. Account scope means the user, portal user, can see all the records owned by the accounts with which this contact belongs to. A portal user or a contact can be associated with a company, right? That's why the relationship account and contact. So if you want to make a scope edge account, that means this portal user can read student entities or student records which are owned by the accounts where this contact is an employee or belongs to this account, right? Parent scope means an entity record can be accessible which is the parent of the record owned by the portal user. Self scope means he can only read, or the portal user can only read the entities records which are owned by himself only. Self scope, that's why it is. So you can see here the diagram written here, right? Portal contact related records, right? And so this is the global and this is contact scope. So the portal user can read related records also. And it is parent account. It is account scope means portal user can read the records which are associated by his account. Like in the self scope, he can access his own record. Self scope diagram is not there, only 4 diagram is there. So self scope is the permission or the scope by which someone can read the information or records owned by himself, right? Now next is authentication. In authentications, I have told you that someone register by giving the email ID, phone number, and different personal informations. And if you want to configure the social login like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, then also you can enable that integration. And that integration requires so many things, like in the Facebook developer portal, you have to create an app, you have to generate the app ID, right? So many configurations are there. I will tell you in some other sessions. So let us go to our Power Portal and understand the records where it is exist, right? So I'll go here. So you know that whenever you create a Power Portal, custom Power Portal, it creates 2 apps. One is a Power Portal app. This one I have created. And it also creates a companion model-driven app called as Portal Management app. This Portal Management app is used to configure all these security measures. Okay. And this is the portal that actually runs in live, right? This portal is generated as because of this unique URL I have created. So this is my custom portal that I have created for my environment, right? Here users can sign in and register like normal Power Portal, right? And if you have sent some invitations, the invitations can be redeemed here, because whenever you send some invitation to a customer, there is an invitation code which is part of the invitation email. So they can provide the invitation and they can register. So ultimately, all of this option points to contact record, because once a user successfully logged in or register, the record is created in contact entity or contact record, right? Now, this is the custom portal I have created. Now, every custom portal that you create in Power Apps, it will create a companion portal management app. So this is the model driven app. Open this model driven app, which is called as Power Portal Management app. Can you see that all the options that are part of my Power Portal Management app is available? Here you have content snippets, basic fonts, many things are there. But today we'll discuss about security measures, right? What are the available concepts in security? First, I told you that in the security sections is the contacts. This contacts represents a portal user, right? Now let me register as a customer. So I'll go here and click on sign in. So this is my customer portal. You can also access this URL and you can register here. So let me register as a public user. Let me give my email ID. Let's say spmastro123. I'm just giving an email ID. Let's say spp123, or just give spp. Keep it short. Username spp. I can give some password. Right now, I will register. Once I'll register, this record will be created in contact entity. Let us understand how it is created. Now, once you have registered here, it will navigate to the profile page automatically in the Power Portal. And you can provide other informations like your first name, last name, because names are not captured here. Just captured email and username. Now let us go to the profile page and let us wait. We will give more informations. Right, now it is going to profile page. Can you see that? Here I can give my name. Let's say I can give something else. Let's say Dinesh Kumar, and I can give my phone number, whatever. So let me give just first name, last name, email ID I have given. Title, let's say CEO, for example. And I don't want to keep other things. Click on update. Now what I have done, a public user come into picture and created or registered in my portal. Now I want to see whether this user Dinesh Kumar, whether this user information are available in my portal or not. I'll go here and refresh this. Go to this portal management app, go to security contacts. Here you will see the new record. Where is my new record? You just refresh this all contacts and click on D. Right, so this is the record created. Right, and if you open that, you will see this is created through Power Portal, and you will see here the owner is system. Can you see that right side top corner? Because this has been created by system through Power Portal. Right, now like that, if you don't want to let users register their name on their own, you can create an invitation. Opening an existing contact, you can create some invitation so that it will create an invitation and send to your customer, and they can redeem the invitation code you supply here to register. Anyway, so first let us understand different things. So contact is created for me, right? The new user which is registered is available in my active contact. Right, I'll go here to this one. Now, as I've told you, this contact is associated with a portal user. This is called as portal user. Now you can select some account also, right? Let's say this customer is a part of this company, A Datum Corporation. So I can select this and click on save and close. Right? That means what I have done, as soon as the customer registered in my portal, the contact record is created and the account is associated. As an administrator, I know that this customer belongs to this company, so I have associated this. Right? Now the next thing is how to define a web role. I know that this person is a vendor for my company and he should have access to student entity. Now to do that, what I have to do? I have to create a role called as vendor. So I'll go to web role and create a role. Can you see that in the web role by default three things are there: authenticated users, anonymous users, administrators. You can create your own web role. Click on new and create new web role. Let me define a role called as vendors. Okay, just use vendors. Okay, or you can say resellers. Okay, now you have to define for which web portal you want to create this web role. This is my web portal. You can give description here, and here you have to see there are two options for web role: authenticated users role, yes or no. What does it mean? This is important. What does it mean? It means that if for this web role, if you make this authenticated users role as yes, that means as soon as a Power Portal user registers, this web role will immediately assigned to that authenticated users. Right? That's why this flag will ensure that whether all authenticated users for your web portal is a reseller or not. If not, then you should keep it no. Right? because I may deal with different web portal users with different roles. So why I will keep it as yes? Because everyone is not resellers. Some are not resellers also. So I will keep it no. What is anonymous users? Anonymous users means any user that loads your website, whether that anonymous users will have this web role by default. If you want to make it yes, then yes. All the anonymous users which are not logged in, not authenticated, can also get the privileges to this web role, which is very wrong. I don't want to do that, but some people do this because their business need is different. So I do want to make it no. Click on save and close. So I have created a web role called as resellers for my Power Portal, and I want to assign this web role to my newly created contact manually. Mind it, manually, because I don't want to automate the reseller web role assignment to all portal users. So I will go to contact and open the contact. My Power Portal user is Dinesh Kumar. So I'll open this, go to related and go to web roles. Now in the web roles, I will click on add existing web role and select the web role here in the list. Now it is added to this contact. That means as soon as you add an existing web role for this contact, now this contact has some role in my Power Portal, and the role is reseller. Now what privileges you want to assign this reseller role? We have not yet defined till now. Let us define. Go to table permissions and define a permission or secure table permission or entity permission. Click on new and define a permission for student entity, right? So define a permission name. For example, let's say student and student table permission for resellers. Okay. Once you have given a name of the table permission, you have to choose which table you want to select for this permission. The entity is student. Student is selected. You have to define for which website you want to configure this permission. This is my portal. What is the access type? I told you, as soon as you create table permissions, you have to define the entity and the access type or the scope. If you define global, that means the web role which will accompany or associate to this table permission can read all the student records from your dataverse. If you choose contact, the user with the reseller security role or web role which is associated with this table permission can read all the records which are created by himself, right? Like that account and parent self, right? For now, let's click on global as access type. Once you define access type as global, I can provide privileges. Privileges means whether you want to allow reading the records, creating the records, writing the or updating the records, deleting the records, appending the records, or appending to the records. Append to, you know that if you want to create a note for another record, then append to is required. So this is a confusing thing, append and append to. So you can watch my some video. I have already told you this. So I have defined all the privileges, right? Then you have to save it. So I have successfully defined a student table permission for resellers. This is not enough. You have to associate this table permission to the web role, because web role is not associated with this table permission. So I'll go here to the web role and add existing web role. Right? Now you understand, table permission is associated with web role and web role is associated with contact. Now these three minimum configurations required to authenticate and authorize the security matrix, right? So that whenever you whenever the customer Dinesh Kumar logs in, he can read student records, create new student records, and update existing student records, delete existing student records, like that. Right? Now next is invitations. You know that I told you you can send invitations to your customers or portal users or your customers so that they can use invitation code to log in or to register, right? You can define invitations. Next important thing is web page access rule. This web page access rule will define a configuration or a security measure by which you can restrict some web page access to your portal users. So let us create new web page access. You have to define some web page access. Let's say first you have to define how many web pages you have, right? Let's say in my custom portal, I have a page called as sub page 1, for example. So let me define a permission for sub page 1. So I'll go here. I can define here rule for sub page 1, right? For reseller. Now here you have to choose the website. This is my website. So from this website, I want to configure a rule for sub page 1 for resellers. Define the website web page. The web page is sub page 1. And what is the right? Do you want to grant change or restrict read? If you click on restrict read, the reseller security role or web role cannot, the users with web role reseller security role cannot read this sub page 1, right? So, and if you choose grant change, then you are assigning this a reading or access, you are allowing the access to sub page 1 to reseller role. Let us choose restrict read, for example. You can define whether you want to restrict all content of that sub page 1, or you just want to exclude direct child web files. You might have multiple web files in Power Portal, like images, videos, and all that, right? So if you just want to restrict read permission for sub page 1, but you want to exclude some web files, then you can choose this one. Otherwise, if all content, you can choose all content. Then you can define some description here. Click on save. Now, once you save it, you have to go to publishing state and you have to add some publishing state here. Click on add existing publishing state and search published and add. So I want to publish this rule. Next, you have to define which web role you want to associate to this rule, web page access rule. You want to associate reseller web role. So I can click on add existing and choose reseller. Right now you can understand how this control web page access control rule is configured. First, define the right or permissions, then define the published association, then include the reseller. Right now, this web page access control rule will restrict sub page 1 for reseller web role. Right. Next, web page access configuration is done. How how you understand how web page access control rule is configured, right? Next, web rule understandable. Then you can go to website access permission, right? Website access permission will completely restrict your website for that web rule, right? If you click on new, let's say I want to create a new configuration. Let's say restrict website permission for resellers, right? I can define the website here, and here I can define what permissions you want to provide for this web page website access. Do you want to provide access to the web role to manage content snippet? Content snippet means you have to define some small snippets which will contain some contents, right? Reusable contents. Whether you want to allow manage site makers, whether you want to allow managing web link sets. Web link sets are managing menu items, right? Whether you want to allow preview on published entities, yes. So these are the permissions you want to give. If you don't want to give any permission, then you just switch up all and go to web role to associate. Click on save first and add existing web role. Right? So like that, this is what website permission for reseller or website access that can be configured. You can also go to publishing state, and here you can define what publishing state you want to create. By default, it is two publishing state is available. One is draft and active. You can define your own publishing state. Let's say staging. You can define what is the website you want to use, and you can define the form state. You can also define new web publishing state, but very rarely it is used. This publishing state transition rule is very rarely used, right? But this transition rule is automatically created whenever you want to create some publishing state, and that you want to automatically transition from one state to another state. Let's say you want to transit draft to published automatically for this web role, then it will automatically whenever a content or whenever a snippet is used in draft mode, it automatically transfers to published. You are not required to select published as a state, right? Although this is not part of security concept, but it's sometimes used, but you can associate accordingly. Right? The most important thing is table permission, web role, web page access rule, and invitation sometimes. So you can define a security role here, web role, and associate in this transition rule. Okay. Now let us understand how invitation works. Right? I want to send someone an invitation. Right? So let us go here to the Power Portal Management and create an invitation. Go to contact. Let's say I have a contact, this one, Shanesh Kumar, right? Let me update the email. So I can define maestro. This is my Gmail, so I can save it. Now, once this customer is already there, this customer is not yet a portal user. This contact is already created through some lead generation or something else. Now I want to make this user as a portal user. So if Sarnesh Kumar, who is a customer, is not a portal user, I can send an invitation. If the customer is not try to register in our portal on his own, then I can click on create invitation, right? So I can send an invitation to Sarnesh. Type, let's say single expiry. You can define a expiry date of your invitation. Let's say tomorrow, if by tomorrow, if the customer does not logs in or does not use this code to redeem in our portal, then the invitation will expire, right? Then you have to define who is inviter, who is inviting. You can define if there is any referral, someone referred some customer through some invitation, then you can define something as an inviter. And who is the invited contact? This is the invited contact. Do you want to assign an account or company whenever the customer is redeemed after using this account or activation code? Then you have to select which account. But I don't want to assign any account, right? But you can choose if you want to assign. Let's say I have to assign to a datum fabrication, right? Now I can go to advanced and define a invitation code. My invitation code is, let's say, SOC Chief 2021. Now I can click on save. Right? So once it is saved, you can also define below here As soon as the customer logs in or registers using invitation code, do you want to assign a web role for this invited user? Then you can define a existing role and associate here. That means whenever the portal user registers using your invitation code, he will automatically considered as a reseller, right? Now here, once it is created, so the invitation is created, right? Now you can see, if you go to invitation, this is already opened, right? You can activate the already activated, right? Now this invitation you have to send, right? How to send the invitation? Let me go to here. Guys, if you are not mute, please mute yourself. Okay. Now you can see here the invitation record is already available here, right? The invitation code is available here in advanced. Now you can use this code and send an email, right? Go to activities and create a new email. How to send invitation codes, right? Or here also you will find a workflow here. If let us see if it is some workflow is available to automatically send the invitation. No, the task is not available, so you have to send an email. Hi, your invitation code is this. You can send this user. Right, subject something and click on send. Right, so this way you can send your invitation code to the customer, right? And the customer will come to your custom portal and try to redeem the invitation code, right? So that he can register automatically using invitation code. So click on redeem invitation, provide your invitation code here, subject 2021. Now click on register. As soon as you click on register, it will try to automatically pull your email ID, right? And you can provide your username and password and register here. This way, now let us give some username and password. Let us see. Now this user will automatically created in my machine, in my contact entity, and the web role, which is called as reseller, will automatically assign to this user. Let me go to contacts. Let us wait for some seconds. Right now the user is Sanesh Kumar. If I'll go to Sanesh Kumar and go to related web role, you will see the web role is automatically assigned. Can you see that? This way you can invite your customers for registering your portal, and they can get the default role that you want to access, right? So this is all about security measures that I wanted to discuss with you all guys. And for other things, if you have any request, we will prepare some sessions in next time, and we'll discuss on that. So if you have any question also, you can ask me now. Any questions from anyone? Okay, so no problem. If you have any question also, you can connect me anytime, and you can also reach me anytime. So I'm free to answer your questions if at all I'm not busy. And if you have any suggestions, whatever you want to talk with me, you can ping me. Thank you guys, everyone, and thanks for joining the session. See you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay.